This is Japanese knotweed. If you live in a northern climate and happen to stumble upon a patch of bamboo-looking plants like these, there's a good chance you're looking at Japanese knotweed. Japanese knotweed is a large perennial plant that forms huge colonies, often overtaking acres at a time. It's an invasive species to the Americas, but due to its aggressive ability to not only spread through seed dispersal, but also its underground rhizomes, it can actually be found in nearly every state here in the US. While this may be bad for farmers and others who don't want this bamboo imposture taking over their food plots and encroaching on their land, the good news is that Japanese knotweed is totally edible and tastes similar to rhubarb. Now, the best place to find Japanese knotweed is along roadways and bodies of water, like this river here. You want to make sure they're receiving full sun and have rich, well-draining soil with organic matter. You can just tell by the color there. So this patch actually runs parallel to this river or stream. This busy road right there. So it's exactly where you'd expect these. Start there.
Young shoots appear in early to mid-spring among the dead stalks of last year's growth.
The stems of Japanese knotweed are hollow like bamboo, with alternating branching leaves which are slightly heart-shaped and grow much bigger than your hand. Obviously this example is still very young, so it's early spring. That's what the underside looks like. The leaves and the stems are completely hairless. These speckles on the stems, get it in focus here. These are characteristic for Japanese knotweed.
And once late summer arrives, it puts out tiny clusters of snowy white flowers similar in structure to those of goldenrod.
Now there's at least 2 known species of Japanese knotweed, including some hybrids. Now where I'm at, there's primarily the OG Japanese knotweed shown here and giant knotweed. Giant knotweed's leaves can double that of Japanese knotweed, reaching up to 15 inches across. Now that you know a little bit about this invasive plant, let's talk about harvesting it. Just be careful not to accidentally spread this plant, as the broken off shoots are extremely quick to make roots once they touch bare soil.
I've actually used the root of Japanese knotweed due to its clinical studies in helping to fight Lyme disease thanks to its powerful antioxidant called resveratrol. You can see just how big last year's growth got and what you can expect to see when the canopy's filled out this season. I'm 6 feet tall, and this stalk actually broke in half a couple inches above my head. If you happen to stumble upon Japanese knotweed on an empty stomach and feel like doing your part to combat the spread of this invasive species, don't hesitate to pick as many shoots as you can carry.
I assure you, they'll bounce back. While there's many ways to eat Japanese knotweed, my favorite way is also the easiest. Now, many people claim to prefer giant knotweed shoots over Japanese knotweed, but I've only found Japanese knotweed myself, so I can't really attest to either or.
When picking the tender young shoots to eat, you'll want to make sure they're still in the spear-like stage, kind of like asparagus or young bamboo. And the ideal height is about 8 to 20 inches, but you can pick them when smaller, or simply cut the top section of much larger shoots as they'll still be tender.
This is probably a little over what you'd want to pick, but I notice it still snaps, so it's fine to eat. These right here are a perfect example. You see these are about 6 to 8 inches. Boom. Super tender. Just like that easy.
Feel free to use a knife or scissors, but I prefer to just bend them until they snap. And by doing it this way, you only get the tender parts that are willing to break away by applying a little force. A pro tip is the tender shoots will taste a lot better if you peel the outer sheath or layer from the stem, and the sooner you peel them, the easier it is. So consider doing this part in the field before you bring them home.
So here's an update on the Japanese knotweed patch. You can see doing just fine. I'm 6 feet tall, 6'1". And these guys are already, that one's 1.5 feet, 2 feet taller than me. So let's see how thick these stems are too. Completely hollow, softer than bamboo, but man, that looks like bamboo, doesn't it? So cool. Expecting a panda to pop out any moment. You know, the more I look at this, I think it might be giant knotweed instead of Japanese knotweed. Wish I could compare it, but giant knotweed leaves are supposed to get up to 15 inches across, and this is still spring, so wouldn't be surprised if these keep growing upwards to 15 inches. In case you're not feeling as bold or as hungry as me, I'll take some of these home and show you a couple options for table fare. Let's get it. As I mentioned before, knotweed does have a similar taste to rhubarb, making them slightly sour. Because of this, you may want to peel this outer fibrous skin here. It's slightly bitter. I honestly don't mind it myself, but you may. Personally, I don't go through the trouble myself because it tends to be real tedious and stringy. If you picture like string cheese, it gets real annoying after a while. You can, of course, just use a knife like that, scrape along. But again, I don't mind the flavor, so that's gonna be a call that you have to make, whether you wanna do it yourself.
Whenever I bring home plants from the woods, I like to soak them in water with a little bit of salt for about 10 minutes. This removes any unwanted dirt, debris, or bugs.
For processing, some cultures blanch, soak, and freeze them for long-term storage. If you want to try to eat them raw, maybe you're too lazy to process them, right? Or maybe you're too nervous to eat them raw and too lazy to process them. Consider dipping them in sugar, just like you would do with rhubarb. As far as recipes go, you can pickle them, turn them into chutneys, some kind of paste. You can also make wine out of them, or some kind of variation of rhubarb pie is super popular.
Regardless of what you decide to make, most people trim off the leaves and separate the ends from the main stalks as they resemble more of a fiddlehead taste than rhubarb. I plan to add most of these to a stir fry later this week, but tonight, I'm just going to combine them for a quick meal. I also managed to grab a bit of garlic mustard, which is a perfect spring herb to add a little flavor to your meals. Here I just decided to boil them and toss them in the oven with some other veggies, but feel free to experiment by chopping them up into stir fries, soups.
So we're about 2 minutes in. You can see they're starting to turn a little off green, a little gray. So in about 30 seconds to a minute, I'll pop them in the oven.
Just know they can get mushy if cooked too long and leave a sour taste that can overpower other veggies.
Here I got some garlic mustard, which is growing alongside the Japanese knotweed. I'm gonna toss these in with the black or wild rice. Once these finish cooking. Garlic mustard. It smells so good. All right, so the oven's set just under 400. These were in there for about 10 minutes, maybe a little less. And you can see at this point, they're starting to turn a little mushy. So I'm just gonna take them out.
As I mentioned, I typically prefer them raw, but I decided to just do a little bit of experimenting here. And honestly, I probably wouldn't do this again. They turned out quite mushy, like I expected, and pretty sour.
And that wraps up Japanese knotweed. Till next time, happy foraging.